Hello and welcome back to Reading Through the Pages. My name is Samantha and it's been a minute. If I've learned anything from 2020, it is that you can plan all you want and life will still have other plans. Having said that, I have made very ambitious plans for 2021 and I don't even know what my 2021 is going to look like yet. Do any of us have any idea what our 2021 is going to look like? Imagine a time when you can plan your year in advance. My cats are going to be noisy through this whole video. So, we're back with a glass of rosé and some notes to take a brief look at what 2020 looked like in books for me. And then we're going to look at my thoughts, my overambitious thoughts for January. In 2020, I read 149 books. Thank you, lockdown. I had lots of free time and I spent quite a bit of that reading. So even though I had some very solid reading slumps in 2020, we nevertheless got quite a lot read. Now, over those 149 books, I read 48,346 pages. Kind of nuts. My shortest book was Snow Glass Apple, which is Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Colleen Doran, and that was 64 pages. Excellent book, by the way. It's fabulous. And then my longest book was a reread of Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, which I listened to on an audiobook, and that one's 850 pages. So, a solid spread. On average, I think most of my books were around 300 pages. That's my jam, those mid-length books. What were some standout books for me in 2020? Normal People by Sally Rooney. I read that this summer. It blew my mind. I loved it. One of those books where people love it or hate it. Absolutely crazy. Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I read that right before we dissolved into chaos. I was going to join a book club. Read this monster of a book and then couldn't go anywhere ever again. But stunning story, beautifully written, definitely recommend. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. That's the first of his new series, Carl series, I believe. This is YA, and it's written very YA, and I can have a hard time getting into that sometimes, and I did struggle to get hooked for the first few chapters, and when I got hooked, I got hooked. Such a fun story. Very much enjoyed it, so recommend. Night by Eli Weissel. Am I saying that right? Probably not. It's a very short book about the author's experience of the Holocaust. And it was heartbreaking and moving and incredible. Very well written. A beautiful book. A beautiful little heartbreaking book. Homegoing by Yagyasi. Another heartbreaking book. This book covers generations of a family from the west coast of Africa. I'm going to be wrong on that, but I'm going to say the west coast of Africa. And one branch of the family ends up enslaved in America, and their struggle with Jim Crow and segregation and all of that, you know, in the United States. And the other branch of the family remains in Africa. Again, just incredible. So highly recommend that one. The Alchemist by Paulo, which I read as part of a 24-hour readathon. Another incredible little book. A boy goes on a journey to find out what he wants. It's great. Plus the cover's beautiful, And finally, A Man Called Ova by Frederick Bachmann. I laughed out loud. I cried out loud while reading this book. Just such a beautiful reminder of how important having a family can be in your life, and that doesn't have to be your biological family, you know, hashtag found family trope, but it's true and it's good and it's beautiful. Definitely going to be putting the entire backlist of Frederick Bachmann on my TBR. at some point. We'll get there. TBR. So, that is 2020. Good riddance. We'll see what 2021 looks like. It's already shaping up to be. Very interesting. On the day that I'm filming this, January 6th, just so much has happened today. So much has happened today. Which is why I'm filming this in the dark with kind of shitty lighting and wine. I have spent the last few days compiling a highly ambitious, very organized for me anyway, spreadsheet to try and figure out reading for 2021. And it's a bit of a mess, I'm not gonna lie. But there's something, and I've mostly figured out January. So that's where we're gonna start. First off, there are so many good readathons happening in January. And I had such a hard time picking which ones I wanted to participate in and trying to, you know, stack reads so that they counted for multiple readathons so I wouldn't go absolutely insane. And I think I was mostly successful, but we'll see. So, the readathons that I am currently planning on completing this month are the Jane Austen January Readathon by Colleen is booked. Very excited about that. Super simple, 4 prompts. I love me some Jane Austen. And I'm going to put all of the readathon information in the description. So for that, we have to read Jane Austen. I'll be reading Persuasion. It's my favorite. We have to read a retelling or something similar. I have this Pride's Prejudice on my shelf, which promises to be fun and hopefully mind candy read. That'll be good. A book about a Jane Austen side character. I have Charlotte. I've heard mixed reviews about this. I already have it. I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. And then a Jane Austen adjacent book. Basically anything Jane Austen shows up in. But I have this, ooh, glare, The Real Jane Austen by Paula Byrne. And I got this biography from my sister several years ago. Haven't read it. My cats have very nicely decorated the dust jacket for me. So that's my 4 books for the Jane Austen January Readathon. And I've managed to slot most of these into some other prompts and other readathons too. So that's readathon number 1. Readathon number 2, which is a year-long readathon, is Buzzwordathon by Books and Lala. Very excited about this. I love the format that we've got going this year. So you can read 1 book a month for the prompt words. You can, you know, do the traditional readathon where you try and read as many books on that word as you want. I'm currently going with the 1 book a month for aforementioned sanity reasons. The buzzword for January is dream. And I only have 1 book on my TBR, my physical TBR anyway, with the word dream in the title. And that is a dream called Home by Reina Grande. And this is actually an arc that I got sent before the book came out in October of 2018. So, finally getting around to it. This is a memoir, and I'm really interested to read it. So we'll see how that goes. Next readathon is Explor-a-thon, and this is being run by Aly Biron on Twitter. This is kind of a fun adventure, you know, school-themed readathon. There's lots of prompts for the different classes that you can take. You're supposed to try and finish 5 of them. You can do as many of them as you want. I have ambitiously planned books for 10 of these prompts, so we're going to see if I can get through these without screwing this up too much. Navigation, a book with a journey. I have already read this year The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which blew my mind. It was super awesome. Universal Current Events, a nonfiction. Second book that I have finished this year, The Witches Salem 1692, nonfiction about the witch trials in Salem, which was a lot, but a very interesting look at them. I liked it was a little bit more realistic than some of the interpretations that I've seen of that, so that was really interesting. The Natural World, a book with plant life on the cover. I'm kind of stretching this a little bit. Don't at me. I'm going to be reading this one for that. There's totally some foliage going on here. So, I'm doing it. Arts of the Universe, a book with a beautiful cover. For this one, I'm going to hopefully finally get around to finishing In the Land of the Salmon. I love this cover. I have this as a Kindle book. I've started it. It just hasn't grabbed me yet. It seems really well written. It's just not really my kind of a book, but the cover is undeniably gorgeous. Communications, a book with a romance or friendship. Good old Persuasion. Probably my favorite relationship in Jane Austen. Human History, a book set in another country. Again, doubling up. Charlotte, set in England. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's kind of a cop-out, but I'm trying not to give myself too much more work than I really need to. Basic Combat, a book with a battle or a fight. For this one, I will be reading Confessions of a Curious Bookseller by Elizabeth Green. Comes out this month, some point. Yes, it's not like an actual battle or fight, but I think it counts. Magic of the Universe, fantasy or magical realism. Again, this may be a stretch, but I want to read this book. So, The Devil and the Dark Water. I got given this book by April over at Get Hygge with Lit for the Secret Santa. Just super fun. So thank you so much to What Victoria Read for setting that up, and also to April for giving me this absolutely gloriously beautiful book that I'm so excited to read, finally. The Many People of the Universe, and this is basically a diversity prompt, LGBTQIA+, POC, representation, and so for this I'll be reading Ordinary Girls, and I got this on loan as a Kindle book from my library. And I also love this cover. It's super awesome. And finally, for a free period, you can pick any book. And I have a Kindle book loan from my library, Hidden Valley Road, which I've been meaning to read for a while, and I finally got it. So we're fitting it in. A weekend readathon is the Carnival-A-Thon. And that is happening the 8th through the 10th. So ending on the day, hopefully this gets uploaded. We'll see how that goes. And this is a super fun little readathon with 5 prompts. So, Merry-Go-Round, a book going around social media. I don't know if it's still going around social media, but it had a strong moment, so I'm saying it counts. Why not? I really want to read this book. Big Top, on the top of my bookshelf. It's the next book due back at the library, so I'm saying it counts. And that's, again, Ordinary Girls. It's the top of my virtual TBR list. Fireworks, a sparkling romance. And you called it. Persuasion. See how well I'm doing, you know, doubling up on all of these books. Pro. I spent so much time trying to set this up. Ice Castle, a book set in winter. I had a really hard time trying to pick a book for this, and I ended up just going with a classic, and I'm going to reread The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, wherein it is always winter, but never Christmas. And then the final prompt for the Carnival-A-Thon is to read a book while drinking hot chocolate or hot cocoa. So we'll be doing that at least once this weekend. And then finally, starting on the 10th of January and running until the 10th of February is Medieval-A-Thon, wherein you get to pick some career paths basically and work your way up from a prisoner to a noble person of some rank, depending on how many books you read And there are different prompts based on the different paths you choose. So that'll be super fun. And I'm working on fitting some of these books into that so that the end of my January doesn't go absolutely insane. So there we have it. Some book plans for January, some good riddance to last year, high hopes for this new year, maintain some semblance of sanity, and get through some more books. I got a couple more books. Hopefully I'll fit in. So I have lots and lots of books on the docket. Off to a decent start. I've finished 2, started a 3rd, Voyage of the Narwhal, which is a beautiful hard copy. And we'll see how it goes. Better start reading. Why do I do this to myself? Hey, boo.